Welcome to the channel, everybody. This is Abyss 1232. Today I'm going to be showing you how to change out your sights on your CZ75 Tactical Sport. Now, whether you have it chambered in 9mm or 40 Smith & Wesson, the procedures are going to be the same. So looking at your stock slide, you're going to have your stock black fixed sight in the front and your stock fixed serrated black sight in the rear. Now, the first decision you're going to want to make is whether you're going to keep your rear sight from the factory or go ahead and purchase a fully adjustable rear sight from czcustom.com. Now, they are available also from CajunGunworks.com. You just need to contact David via email and he can get those sent out to you. After you decide which rear sight to install or keep, it's going to affect on which front sight to install. So either way, we're going to be changing out our front sight for a fiber optic, but there's two different sizes to look at. So if you happen to install your fully adjustable rear, you're going to be getting a 6.5mm fiber optic front sight in height, and you can choose two different widths on the diode at 1.5 or 1.0. Now, the 1.5mm front sight is part number 10087. This is currently the sight that I have installed on this slide. Or you can choose the 1.0mm diode sight. The part number on that is 10083. Now, if you choose to keep your fixed rear sight, which is something I'm going to be doing on this slide, you're going to need to purchase a 7.5mm front sight, and again, you have a choice on whether to choose a 1.5mm diode or a 1.0mm diode. Now, the 1.5mm diode is part number 10088, and the 1.0mm diode is part number 10084. If I didn't mention it, the part number on this rear sight is 30049, and you don't need a part number on the rear sight for the fixed because that's already going to be installed on the slide. Now, the pricing on this rear sight is $65. No matter what front sight you choose or need to get, they're all going to be $35 from czcustom.com. That's pricing on their website. Availability is definitely going to be varied, though. Now, another thing I recommend to pick up is a pin, replacement pin for the front sight, just in case. Now, I haven't done this install yet, so I went ahead and picked it up just in case. The part number on that is 10091, and the one that I chose to get for my fixed rear sight is 10088. That's going to be the same width as this fiber optic. Now, the blade length on this is a 3.1mm. They do offer a smaller millimeter, but I don't understand why they would offer a smaller one. Just go for the 3.1 length blade. So hopefully that wasn't too confusing. But another thing you're going to need is a drill bit. Now, it doesn't mention what size drill bit you need, but this is the part number 30308, and I believe they call it a number 47 drill bit. So it was cheap, whatever. I just added it to the cart. Didn't change my shipping at all, so pick that up just so I can install it properly. Now, another thing you're going to need is a flathead screwdriver. You have a 1.5mm hex wrench, 2.5mm hex wrench. You have a nylon punch, a 1/16 punch, and of course a hammer and something to brace your gun with. Again, that's what I use. Seems to work for me. So once you've made your decisions on which sights to choose, we're going to go ahead and install. Now, you're going to need to install your front sight first and install your rear sight second. So we're going to start out with the stock slide, and I'm going to show you how to remove your front sight. Again, you take your 1/16 punch, and all you're going to do is knock out that front pin. Now, one side should have a little bit more room over the other, pretty sure, because it's not a perfect pin. All you're going to do is knock out that front pin. So go ahead and brace the pistol, hold it in the groove, and go ahead and knock out that front sight pin. So you can see front sight pin is out. Gonna flip, slide upside down, take your nylon punch, brace the slide, and hammer out your front sight. There you go. So now the front sight is removed. As you can see on the front sight, it does have this notch on the bottom, and that's what you're going to be recreating with the drill bit on your new sight. So it's just a very small amount that it needs on the actual sight itself, so that the pin can come in and hold your sight in place. So again, that's your front sight. Again, part number on the one that I chose for the 1.5 millimeter diode is 10088. And I did pick up an extra pin, like I mentioned, just in case. But one thing to notice is that it's a hollow pin, as opposed to your stock one. Oh, I lied, they're both hollow. Alright, well, one just smashed in. I punched it out. But this is your new one right here, so I'm going to put that aside in the bag. So this is your replacement front sight for your stock fixed rear sight. What you can do here is put a little dab of oil, like a small film right here. Just touch it on your finger and dab it on there. That'll assist with the front sight to fully seat it to the rear of your post. So again, just put a small film, small film of oil there. So a little shiny. Now all you're going to do is go ahead and put it in position. Push it in as far as you can. Take the nylon hammer, and slowly start tapping that till it sets fully into the rear. So one thing you want to be careful of is, if you can see that, even though it might be flush with the frame or the slide here, it's not going to be flush with the rear of the actual post there. So that's when you take your nylon punch, try not to aim it at the top, push it down as far as you can, and make sure you get that front sight to sit as back as far as possible. So now that the sight is fully set to the rear, we can go ahead and take our drill and our drill bit, or attach this to a Dremel, and we're going to slowly work it through the sight and have it come out the other end. Now, very important note before I start drilling this bad boy away is that the drill is going to be drilling in a clockwise motion. Once you have this sight seated fully to the rear, you want to go through the sight from the left hand side of your slide. So if you're looking at your slide like this, this is the left hand side of your slide. This is where you want the drill bit to be going through the hole, because as it rotates clockwise, it's going to be keeping this sight set to the rear. Now if you mess up and you don't pay attention to this very important note, and you come through the right side and you start working the drill as it's rotating clockwise, it could potentially pull your front sight out as you start drilling through the metal. And that's not something you want, because then it's not going to give you a solid puncture through the metal. So very important note, come through the left hand side and start drilling very slowly and carefully until you make it through to the other side. So I'm going to go ahead and start that. I'm not going to do this on camera because there's no way I'm going to be able to hold this steady. I recommend using a vise so that you can hold this in place and there's no movement as you drill through there. And again, the goal is, it's going to be almost near impossible, but you can see the very small lip. That's the only thing you're trying to get through here, guys. That very small lip in the sight in order for the pin to go through and hold that in position. So I'm going to go ahead and do that off camera, because there's no way I'm going to be able to do this on camera this close and in detail and brace it and punch through as well. Okay, so taking my time and a little bit of force, as you can see, I have made and punctured through the sight. Haven't damaged the frame. You'll have some filings here and there to clean up. Alright, just blowing out the remainder of that. So as you can see, you're going to need to clean that out, remove all the shavings, but see if you can see that the front sight is still fully to the rear. And I got a nice hole going to the other side. Gonna go ahead and take my new front sight pin, which again is part number 10091. You can try and hand place the pin through the hole. After you clean out your area and then all you need to do is push that through. So I'm going to go ahead and clean this out real quick, get it prepped so I can push the pin in. Alright, so I cleaned off the area and then I pushed the pin in by hand. Now all I'm going to do is finish pushing it through. So go ahead, take a punch. Push that through. So my front sight is now installed. Now the only thing that you have to do here is choose your fiber optic color. And these should be really easy to install as well. If you've never installed a fiber optic, pretty easy stuff. You just insert the color that you want, get it to go through. On the other end, and you just grab something to cut it with. Right in the middle there. So I just got these little tweezer scissors and clip it off so that you don't have, probably have like a millimeter left. At that point, all you're going to do is take a lighter and just melt, hold it down for like maybe a second, hold it down and melt either end of those 2 points. After you do that, I don't have a lighter, my fault, I should have had a lighter for this install. But that's what your front sight picture is going to look like with your 1.5 millimeter diode. Now, that'll be your stock slide with your 7.5 millimeter in height front sight with your stock fixed sight. Even though I didn't melt down the fiber optic, that's pretty much what it's going to look like, and that's pretty much what it takes to install your front sight. Now, if you choose to remove your stock sight, you're going to need your 2.5 millimeter hex wrench, and all you need to do is untighten the screw, undo that, bring it up to an adequate level, and then take your nylon punch, brace your slide, and then hammer that out. Now, the only reason I'm not going to remove that is because on this specific slide, I'm going to be keeping this sight and leaving that front sight. I'll melt that down on my own time. But let's just pretend I went ahead and knocked this rear sight out. This is what it should look like if you're at that point. Again, if you're installing your adjustable rear sight, this will be a 6.5 millimeter in height front sight, and you would have gone through the same procedures to install that. And this is what the fiber optic will look like after you melt it down on both sides. Your rear sight should be removed if you choose to install your adjustable rear. And again, you're going to put a light thin coat of oil. As you can see, I actually put it on the slide itself. Depending on how yours is packaged, the springs might already be in, the springs might not be installed, but you just go ahead and put those in place on the top. Go ahead and fold it over so that you can flip it upside down and flip it right side up. Put the screw in. Hold it down, just give it a little bit of pressure, and you only need to screw in that adjustment screw very little. You don't need to tighten it down. You just need it to stay in place for just a second, because depending on how tight this is, you might need to take a hammer and start whacking it around. And if you leave it open, you could possibly bend or misalign something inside. So go ahead and just lightly install it together, lightly put it together there. As you can see, it's pretty far up right there. But mine actually slid in by hand. You might need to take a hammer and the nylon punch to push this through, but I think that oil kind of assisted with me getting that to set in really easily. So at this point, since your rear sight and your front sight is on, you're going to actually want to sight your pistol before you tighten it down. So again, we'll just pretend you're at home, you sighted the pistol left and right for the most part. You know, this is a very rough, you don't have to sight it perfectly because this is a fully adjustable rear, but let's see, good way to get it pretty close is just to line up these two ends with the top serrations. So I'm just going to eyeball it so I can show you how to install and finalize the rest, but go ahead and push down that rear sight to expose that screw. Unscrew it all the way. As you hold down the rear sight, take out the screw, gently release, well, I was hoping that spring would stay down, but whatever. Just put those springs down in place. And then you're going to tighten down your Allen screw with your 1.5 millimeter hex wrench. You have two screws, so just go ahead and screw those both down. Take those springs, seat them in place. I actually see them up on the top, as you can see there. They sit a little bit better. Don't jump around. Bring the slide down. And put your adjustment screw down. Well, that's pretty much it, guys. After that, go ahead and sight your gun, your pistol down, and you will have either a new fully adjustable rear and your fiber optic front, or you will have your fixed rear with your fiber optic front. Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope this was helpful. Leave any comments, questions down below.